Welcome back to the Good Marshals Universal Podcast. Dan Bernardo, Keith Mosier, Bo Davis. All right. So recently, I went on Facebook and was telling my group that I was making changes to a form. And it got some interesting responses, mostly positive, but so today I'd like to talk about who says that you can change the form?
I had somebody say that to me exactly like that.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't really have forms. We have books, and that's absolute.
Well, that's still along the same
It's along the same
principle.
If you have anything that's somewhat formulated, but then you try to make a change to it.
I think it's more of like an interpretation thing in HEMA, but probably the same for y'all too, because y'all are trying to interpret so-and-so's text from 1920 that really came from this, it came from this.
The first mistake in this equation is, especially for Wing Chun folk, is this idea that these things are millennia old.
Mm-hmm.
And how dare you change something that old?
Mm-hmm.
Plus, it's been at the layers of mysticism and it's sacred and blah, 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 blah. But any form is just a tool to help you understand, hopefully, the fundamental principles and the basic concepts of your art. And you can get into really funny places, like you're looking at Huang Yi and he said certain things, and you have this other, I'll say an association, that teaches the forms a certain way, and you're saying, well, he kind of sliced this like that.
Mm-hmm.
I was in a situation where I rebuilt a moon from essentially text and some videos. But in that same process, I had a text of Seijo Lee's kick set. And it was written in karateka. Front snap kick.
Yeah.
Right, front snap kick, side kick, blah. And so I rewrote it in Wing Chun Cantonese. Jeet Gurk. Juk Gurk. Who says you could change the form? I didn't change the form. I translated the form. One of the things he has in his kick set, and I never understood why. I do understand. He had a clock. Seijo Lee had a clock.
Yeah.
But it wasn't a clock. It was, and I cannot remember the exact organization of numbers, but it was like 6 and 3 and 12, and it was like, I turned it into a clock. I said, you're facing 12, and your first moves are to 3 o'clock, and then your next moves are to 9 o'clock, because it makes sense.
Yeah.
Who says you can change the form? I didn't change the form. I changed the interpretation, the translation. I made some things easier to do.
Yeah. You just changed the instruction.
Yeah, I just changed the manual.
You just changed the manual. Changed how it would be instructed.
Yeah.
You didn't actually change the form.
I didn't actually change the form. But even when you get down into your case where you're changing the form, again, it's what is the form? What is a form for?
Mm-hmm.
Instruction.
Yeah.
So if you change it to make it easier to teach, what's the beef?
I don't think it's really a change at that point. It's just like, do this a little different. And now you're now training to do this. Like, yay, we're doing the thing.
So if you were to think about like a play,
Yeah.
Right. So if you take one of Fiore's longsword plays, right, and you say that Fiore says to do this, to create this sort of neutralization and to, knee him in the groin.
Yeah.
Right? Like this is a real longsword play. He gets him and he knees him in the nuts, right? But if you were to go, okay, we're going to do this play, but we're not going to knee him in the nuts. We're going to step behind him and sweep the leg.
Yeah.
Is it still that play?
So actually, yeah.
Precisely.
But that's because Fiore said it. He was like, play with this. He was like, try this as me, like, do whatever the hell. Here's just some shit. Like that was, as far as I could tell, that was all it was. Because he gave it to his patron, right? So he wasn't concerned about training a whole bunch of people. He's assuming people already kind of know something.
Correct.
Right?
Correct.
But that's also why I don't really have a dog in this fight, because that's how HEMA is.
Well,
like, you could say something and someone was like, let's test it out then. Like, there's nothing really to it.
With HEMA, you may not have a dog in the fight, but let me give you an example. A couple examples. Start real local and small. Sifu Fong changed a few of the techniques and approaches in the Mukyang Jong.
Yeah.
Is that an issue? Should that be an issue? Should somebody be going, why did you change the form?
Someone should ask why, yeah.
He changed it. Okay, so he gives you the answer, it's easier to teach this way.
That's a good answer.
Okay. For a lot of the Wing Chun folk, it's a fundamental example. The form that most Jui Wan, the Mukyang Jong, that most Jui Wan do, is descended somewhat with modifications by almost every Sifu from Ip Man's Hong Kong series. Though Ip Man changed it from that form, from his original form, mainland form. Mm-hmm. The ending sequence is totally different. Actually, some people call it the 108. Some people have the 118. Then there's the Ip Man, Hong Kong. Then there's Jui Wan, Hong Kong. And even from Jui Wan, Hong Kong, which is, you're talking 1950s, 60s, 70s, even from that period, it has changed to some degree.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. It gets modified by most people. Some people create the illusion this is the way it came down from the mountain centuries ago.
Right.
And so you end up with the Facebook people who are like, why did you change the form?
Right.
It's not real Wing Chun anymore.
Right.
But if it's teaching the exact same principles, does it matter?
So this leaves me with the question, because this sounds like a big game of telephone, right? You reconstructed something that people weren't really doing.
Yeah.
How was the response to that? Guide me through that. That's what I'm more interested on, because like, if I came across a book that no one had a clue about, and I was like, well, actually, I found this, I'd get that. I could see me getting some shit for that, because that's how HEMA is. You have to be all scholarly and whatnot, you know. Like if I came across just a picture book that everyone knew about, and I was like, I have the translation over here that was rewritten over here, then people would start asking questions. Because like I know how you found yours. You told me a little bit about that one, so it's more not less about like how you did it, but like what was the response like, and
the response. I don't want to step on toes, but the reason.
Right.
It came about for two reasons. One reason was one individual wanted to really have something to give to children, kids.
Yeah.
Being used to a more karateka approach of everything is kata.
Yeah.
But they were, at that point, they were JKD based, and it was like, oh my God, what do I give the little kids to do? So that individual wanted something for the kids. From my perspective, as soon as that kind of came to me, and it's like, okay, I've got some pieces here, and I can go out and find some more pieces, and I can figure out how to put this thing together. To me, it was, from a JKD point of view, not Wing Chun point of view, it was, if I'm going to teach my students, I want to teach my students as much of it as I can. So it was a scholarly, I need to reconstruct this thing because that's part of it. A good example, and this kind of cuts away from Wing Chun, but I mean it applies. If you teach JKD and you do not teach the nunchaku, some people are going to say it's not right because Bruce Lee is known for the nunchaku. If you're not teaching your students to, then you're not teaching them JKD, right? Which is insane. It's not actually true. But some people, the same people that are saying, who said you could change the form, are the same people who would say, you mean you took JKD and you never did any nunchaku?
Yeah.
So when you had hmmm, did you share it with colleagues, peers, etc.?
I taught it to my students. I made them learn it. I required
so people knew. They were like, yes, this is cool.
I required them to do it in order to get grade.
How big was this? Because I know people that know of it now and have no clue who you are.
Yeah, that's not surprising.
Okay. Well, how did it got carried around? It seemed like it did well. That's why I'm asking. It's like.
Yeah, because the place needed a form to teach, and here was a form.
Yeah, but I'm talking like there are people in California who know about this.
Look, hmmm.
It's hmmm.
I wasn't the guy that dredged up hmmm from the dead for the entire world. I was the guy who dredged it up locally.
Locally, cool.
When I mean
okay,
locally, I mean even.
Still, there's some people locally.
I went to Atlanta and asked Sifu Fang's folks, hey, do you guys do hmmm? No, we don't even know it. Guru Nasanto stopped teaching it in the 80s.
Oh, okay.
So you could go out to California and there would be people who know that it exists.
Oh.
But they don't do it anymore. They know it's there. They know it's out there, but they don't do it anymore because it became a
non-required?
No, I would say it fell into the Bruce Lee's, his whole no way is way, no style is style, all that stuff.
Yeah.
People that go in for that thought process are thinking, I don't want to learn forms. I want to learn to fight. So you go into the Guru Nasanto school in the mid-'80s, late 80s, and he's sometimes teaching the form and sometimes not because most of the students are not interested in the form because they want to learn the fight stuff. And then, of course, it's Guru Nasanto, and he's really good with the Kali, and so he's teaching his thing, right? Yeah. Eventually, he stopped teaching it because the practitioners didn't want it. From my perspective, it was about, kind of like Dan's perspective, my job is to teach as much to my students as I can. If they want it, they'll take it. If they don't want it, they won't. There are some students of mine who probably have completely forgotten hmmm. There are some who there are probably some who remember it. There are some who may be teaching and may have gone the route of forms aren't important, you've got to learn to fight, and they're not teaching it.
Yeah.
Right? But I think it doesn't do anyone a service to allow it to die. Then you get into who said you could change it. And if in the case of Tang Soo and Huang Yi, your forms and kata and hyung are so pervasive, even outside of your own styles, those arts. Mm-hmm. I mean, you guys do Nihonchi. I did Nihonchi.
Yeah.
That this idea of things being lost is not as big of a deal, although an individual instructor's concepts may get lost. And you found Huang Yi, and this makes sense, and this really connects to this and that, and so let's put these puzzle pieces in. Mm-hmm. That, I think, is a valuable thing to do.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, like I get, so, like what I think people, again, what people really misunderstand in regards to forms is how many times they have been changed by so many different people, especially within karate, right? Like your version of Naihanchi that you learned when you were little is still nowhere near the original Naihanchi, right? Mm-hmm. Like and then if we start to get into, like, again, there's 28 forms in my curriculum. Like, how many of those have been changed so many times? And so, what I'm doing now is changing them to look more like some of the older versions, because I think that some of the changes that have been done to them up until this point have been for competitive reasons. I don't compete a whole lot. For athletic reasons, that's fine. I can keep some of that stuff in there. But, when, like you said, we're as a teacher, can I teach something that makes the skill easier to learn? That's what I really want to do. And again, like I had somebody point out, so you're not doing traditional tangsudo anymore. So, technically, I'm doing more traditional tangsudo because I'm going backwards. I'm a little bit more traditional now than, I'm not doing modern tangsudo, but most tangsudo practitioners don't realize that the majority of our forms were created by Itosu.
Yeah. In
the late 1800s, at the earliest, right? The Pyongan forms were created by him. Both of our pasais were created by him. Our kusanku was created by him. Like, so many of our forms are actually his creations and or modifications. He modified the forms heavily. That's what we have. They're not ancient.
I feel like this is a big thing in HEMA. I think HEMA is just starting to see it. Martial arts has more of people that do and people that think. You have like more scholarly and more athletic personalities in HEMA, right? Mm-hmm. Both nerdy, but different kinds.
Mm-hmm. Hit the like,
share,
subscribe,
hit the notification bell,
comment, do all the things. Peace, y'all.
Peace.